meditation is supposed to be fun. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now, and brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
Welcome to the Pause with Pythian podcast. Breathe in, tune in, and let's take a sacred pause together. I'm your host, Pythian Priestess. The time is now. Let us begin. Hello, mystics, and welcome back to Pause with Pythian. Today we're going to be talking about true mindfulness. Mindfulness is a word we hear constantly on social media and wellness spaces, even corporate offices like Amazon. But what does it really mean? It's lost its definition. Is it truly just sitting in silence and counting your breath? Or is there something deeper? Of course there is. There's always something deeper. At the core of mindfulness, it is about presence. It's about being present. It's the ability not to project yourself into the future or get lost in the past. Our anxieties and our regrets are always pushing us away from this present moment. Mindfulness is found in a variety of traditions throughout time, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and Stoicism. But yet, in today's world, mindfulness is stripped of its depth. It's really sold as a productivity hack rather than a spiritual discipline, and that's a problem. In Buddhism, mindfulness is a part of the Eightfold Noble Path. It's a way to enlightenment. This is the concept of sati. It's the Pali word meaning mindfulness, or to remember or be aware. This is not a technique, it's a way of being, it's a way of life. In Hindu traditions, the Bhagavad Gita teaches detached awareness, meaning that we are interacting with the world, but we are not consumed by it. And even the Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, emphasized that staying present in the moment is important. He says, you must confine yourself to the present moment. Practicing true mindfulness doesn't mean that we're escaping reality. We're truly immersing ourselves in it in the purest form. We're training ourselves to engage fully with life rather than numbing ourselves from it. That is truly what has happened with mindfulness. We have numbed ourselves using mindfulness as a technique that has been corporatized to be productivity. When we practice true mindfulness as the ancients did, we're not numbing ourselves to reality. We're not escaping reality. It's not a productivity hack. It's a way of life. So how do we make mindfulness authentic again? How do we take this ancient practice and make it possible in our modern world? I looked to Sadhguru, someone I admire greatly, for some information about this. Sadhguru says so eloquently, then mindfulness is not about controlling your thoughts. It's about not letting your thoughts control you. This goes back to that detached awareness, where we are aware of what's happening around us, but not being consumed by it. It's also something we see a lot in modern psychology, where therapists teach their clients to observe their thoughts rather than get sucked into the thought tornado. I mean, think about it. How often do we let our thoughts run wild, spiraling us into worry, over-analysis, distraction that takes away from our sleep? It takes away from the present moment here. Mindfulness is truly an antidote for modern problems. It's the practice of stepping back and becoming the observer of your own mind. You're not forcing silence. You're simply letting your thoughts rise and fall without detachment. Another quote from Sadhguru that I really like is that if you're somewhere else in your mind, you're nowhere in the present. How often are we half present with people that we see in real life? We're either thinking about a text message, we're thinking about stuff that's happening on social media, and we're not here in reality. Sometimes we get stuck in this trap and we call it multitasking. Multitasking emphatically is not good for your brain. Here's a list of references and citations from authors and scientists alike about how multitasking is bad for your brain. One of the theories about multitasking is called the bottleneck theory. Think of the neck of a bottle, like a Coke bottle, and there are marbles lined up. One marble can only pass through the bottle at a time. Similarly, just one task at a time can move through the bottleneck of our brain's limited processing capacity. If you try to let all of the marbles go through at once, you're going to recognize probably some headaches, quite literally. If someone was going to try to put multiple marbles through at the same time, it's going to cause issues, including increased stress, reduced efficiency, and increased errors in your work. It's quite literally not worth it. Engaging in multitasking scatters your attention and actually can impair learning and performance, which I thought was insane. Because you'd think more is better, but that's not the case. Our brains are not designed like that. It is truly less is more. And because you get so stressed out when you're multitasking, you get more mental fatigue and decreased focus, which is completely against the point of trying to multitask. Regardless, it's pretty hard to avoid multitasking in 2025, and sometimes it's necessary. That being said, that's why we have to make time for mindfulness. It's like a cleaning out of the brain. Which brings us back to Sadhguru, who says, we think we're multitasking, but in reality, we're just fracturing our awareness. And when I multitask, I get really bad headaches. It's super hard for me to do it. And the more that I've done magic, the harder it has been for me to multitask. Mindfulness isn't always about meditation either. It's about finding the present moment in daily activities, like being actively aware while drinking your coffee in the morning, focusing on the taste in your mouth, the liquid, focusing on the swallowing process, because you are fully engaged in the moment and fully engaged with life. You're not escaping from it by scrolling on your phone or trying to put your awareness somewhere else rather than that exact moment. Technology causes a huge problem when it comes to mindfulness, where our ancestors did not have that kind of distraction. They were forced to be present in more ways than one. Although I'm sure you could think about a lot of things while you're picking berries or making pottery in ancient Greece, right? It was a little bit easier for them. Technology is not inherently good or bad. I'm going to be pulling from Donald Michael Craig, an amazing ceremonial magician. He talks about magic in this way, which is apropos to technology. Magic is not good or bad. It's like electricity. It's neutral until you add your willpower to it. Electricity can power an electric chair or turn on a light bulb. It's the same thing with technology. It's all about the way that you use it. And truly, it's a double-edged sword. Because technology is not the problem in and of itself, it's the way we engage with it. We have to take self-responsibility here. We allow ourselves to have our focus stolen. We allow ourselves to get sucked into social media. We allow ourselves to become distracted. We allow the phone to steal our focus. We allow social media to take up a lot of our brain power. So we have to become more conscious of our use and consumption of technology rather than being passive consumers. I'm guilty of this myself, and I have been working consciously to reduce the distraction that my phone has. I have turned off all of my notifications for social media. I'll check it when I check it. I only receive notifications for emails and phone calls. It's pretty intense when I realize how much that little ding, ding, ding was pulling my attention away. And there's a very famous study that found that the mere presence of your smartphone, even when it's off, reduces your cognitive capacity. I'm going to read directly from my notes here so I don't misconstrue anything. The study is called Brain Drain. The mere presence of one's own smartphone reduces available cognitive capacity, conducted in 2017 and published by the Journal of Association for Consumer Research. So in their research, they had 2 experiments. The participants were assigned to place their smartphones in different locations, on a desk in view, in their pocket, bag, or in another room. The findings revealed that the participants with their phones on the desk performed worse on cognitive tasks compared to those with their phones in the other room, suggesting that even without active use, the presence of your smartphone can impair your cognitive function. I mean, how many times have you had a phantom buzz or a phantom vibration thinking that your phone's going off? This phenomenon of the phone's presence draining our attention is known as brain drain. It indicates that our brains allocate attentional resources to our phones simply by their presence, reducing capacity for other available tasks. Just like we create energy cords with other people, we have created energy cords to our smartphone, and it's important that we detach from it at least once a week. Put it somewhere where it's not going to bother you and go outside. Go for a walk, read a book, something that allows you to be technology free. And I would be amazed to see if you have withdrawals. Back in undergrad in 2012, oh my gosh, so long ago, one of my professors had us write a paper where we couldn't use our phones for 24 hours. And so many of my fellow students and peers talked about how they were having withdrawal symptoms. And that's really scary, especially since social media has boomed in the last 10 to 15 years. Social media and AI algorithms are designed to keep us engaged. You know that infinite scroll feature? This is known as a variable reward system. TikTok's algorithm in particular has taken something known as the slot machine effect, which it allows unpredictability to stimulate dopamine in the brain. So when you're scrolling infinitely, it's setting off dopamine alarms. It's just like a slot machine. The unpredictability, the entertainment really heightens the experience. And that is why it is so addictive to young people. In fact, there have been several United States who have filed lawsuits against TikTok's design, making it intentionally addictive to young people. TikTok intentionally targets children because they know children do not have the defenses or capacity to create healthy boundaries around addictive content. What has been done is creating an unlimited amount of information, which means you never stop and reflect. You can't have a moment to yourself because you constantly are scrolling. It's not best for our growth. It's not good for our brains. I can tell you, I am stupider than I was in 2012, like significantly. And I put that to probably being a social media influencer, spending a lot of time on social media. And I'm sad about it. I'll be honest. It's sad. So I have dedicated a lot of my time to going back to reading. So I encourage you, become aware of your habits. How often do you find yourself watching TV and then have your little screen scrolling and you're not paying attention really to either, and yet you feel unhappy inside? The other thing is people think they're going to go on their phone and scroll to relax them. That's bullshit. That is not how that works. So while your body may be laying in bed, your brain is highly active. Various parts of the brain are going to be triggered, including emotional response, your memory, and social comparison. That's not relaxing at all. What's happening is, as you're scrolling, you're actually dysregulating your nervous system. And this can lead to anxiety, depression, and a dysregulation that actually makes it very, very difficult for you to relax. And lastly, your attention is getting fatigued. So it makes it harder for you to focus on tasks when what we want to do is give the brain a moment to relax, to release, and not have to do anything. And that's what mindfulness allows you to do. There's nothing to do except be focused in the present. Activities like being in nature, literally stop and smelling the roses. Meditation, even if you're just focusing on the food that you're eating. And of course, reading. Reading is a great way to help your brain visualize and meditate. It's different than scrolling on your phone. But ultimately, mindfulness is the antidote to all of this craziness that technology has created for us. And I particularly love this quote from Sadhguru. If you are always somewhere else in your mind, you're nowhere in reality. And if you are multitasking, you are just robbing yourself of your own depth. That's so powerful. So I want to talk about how technology affects us and how mindfulness has merged with technology in some ways, creating this corporatized McMindfulness. This was a book that was written by a man named Ronald Purser. And this book is a growing critique of how all mindfulness is not equal and how corporations have taken it to make it a productivity hack rather than a way of life. In McMindfulness, which I highly suggest you read, Purser describes how mindfulness has been commercialized. It's been stripped of its depth and repackaged as a stress management tool rather than a spiritual practice. Companies like Amazon are a great example of this. In 2021, Amazon created Zen booths. They were tiny little booths where overworked employees could go in to escape their job for a few minutes. And they even gave them a list of affirmations to say to kind of numb them out, to take away temporarily the stress of the job. That's not what mindfulness is about. Look at this picture. I mean, these are no bigger than the size of a coffin. And we've all heard horror stories about how these workers have to pee in bottles standing up because they're not getting breaks. A mindfulness room is not going to fix this problem. The best part of all of this is they called it Amazon. It's not even creative. It's painful. Human beings are not robots with a battery that needs to be charged. Going and doing a mindfulness meditation in your coffin box isn't going to make people work better. It's a cheap way that, first of all, reduces ancient technology for profit. And it's horrible. In McMindfulness, Purser explains that when companies or influencers try to sell mindfulness as a quick fix, it's an individualistic solution to a greater systemic problem. There are many examples of corporate mindfulness programs that teach employees to breathe through the stress and yet never question the toxic work conditions and environment that are causing it. It also guilts people. It says, oh, well, you're so stressed because you're not meditating enough or you're not meditating right. Instead of asking the question is, why is our society built in a way that so many people are anxious, overworked, and depressed? Mindfulness is supposed to be liberating. It is supposed to heighten your awareness. But in this watered down form, it is nothing except a tool to make people more compliant. So I have compiled a list for you to recognize false mindfulness practices. How do we know if it's just a buzzword or not? Here are some red flags to watch out for. Number 1, if mindfulness is only focused on relaxation and not awareness. Mindfulness is not just about feeling calm, it's about becoming more conscious and present in all aspects of life. Number 2, if mindfulness is avoiding the deeper traditions and wisdom associated with it. Many modern mindfulness programs remove all spiritual, ethical, and ancient elements, making it just a performance tool. And thirdly, if mindfulness is ignoring the systematic issues. True mindfulness is not just a coping mechanism. It is allowing you to see the world more clearly and introspectively ask deeper questions of yourself, not a productivity tool to make sure you hit your 50%. Ultimately, the major difference is the mindfulness practice encouraging self-discovery, self-inquiry, or is it just temporary stress relief before you dive back into the bullshit? So let me ask you, and I want to see your answers down in the comments. If you had to turn off your phone right now, how long could you resist checking it? Do you think you'd feel anxious or would you feel relief? Try a small experiment. Next time you feel the impulse to reach for your phone, take a pause. Give yourself 3 deep breaths before deciding if you need to check it. Notice how strong the pull is. Are you checking out of habit, or is there real intention behind picking up the phone? Now, I'm not saying that we abandon technology. That is not the case. We have to learn how to use it consciously. And here are some ways that you can bring mindfulness into your digital life. Setting a sacred time that's technology free. You turn off your phone. This could be during meals, 1 hour before you go to bed, which scientists have said actually improves your sleep quality because you're not looking at that blue light. Even an hour after waking up in the morning, don't look at your phone. That is one sure way to get your cortisol levels through the roof. Small changes like this are going to work slowly on rewiring your brain so you're not so dopamine dependent. Be intentional with your social media. Ask yourself, why am I opening this app? Am I bored? Do I have anxiety? And start using it with intention. Are you there to look something up, to learn something new, or connect with someone meaningful? Or are you just doom scrolling? Mindfulness is not about rejecting technology. Mindfulness is not about being a productivity hack. At its core, it's reclaiming your power by reclaiming your attention. It's about being fully engaged in the present moment, whether or not it involves your phone. So I invite you to reflect on this. Are you using your devices, or are they using you? Thank you so much for your attention today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode with Pause with Pythian. So breathe deep, stay present, and let your light shine. Bye.